Hey, it's Paul Clegg here, and we had a really good meeting this morning of the Somerset Marketing Hub Online. Last week, we talked about why people don't get the sort of introductions, the referrals, the recommendations that they think they deserve, and we explored about 10 reasons why. If you've not watched that, then I'll put a link along with this video so that you can. But we followed up this time about how important it is to build really deep, lasting relationships based on mutual respect and, more important, understanding. And what we've done is that recording really turned out to be quite special. In this recording, I introduced Joe Martin, a smart PA associate, and just basically showing everybody how to do a one-to-one, how to really delve in and ask meaningful questions. But then the rest of the group waded in with other questions and other really great tips on how to get the most from your one-to-one meetings after any networking event. Not enough people do it, but check out the rest of this video. All the very best. Cheers.
Good morning, everybody. It's Paul Clegg from Somerset Marketing Online, and we've got our group together today to continue from last week's subject, which was all about why we don't get the introductions, the word of mouth referrals that we think we deserve. Because in essence, there's lots of reasons why. I'll give you a link to the video of that recording from last week. There's lots of reasons why that are quite logical, quite easy to understand. And essentially, we're just not waiting. We're not thinking of one another, and especially those people we don't meet on a regular basis. Everybody here we meet on a regular basis, and so I thought what we'd do today is to really continue that subject because it's very important. I'm going to share something for the moment. I'm not going to, I want to keep up the open conversation here, but I want to share just a couple of slides for us to focus on. And open this up. And I came across this interesting statistic during the week. According to a study, while 83% of customers say they're willing to provide referrals for a positive experience, only 29% actually do. And I think if we go back to what we were talking about last week, we'll perhaps understand why. A lot of the reasons is we just don't stay in touch or follow up in a timely manner after we've produced a service or a product. We don't follow up to see that they're completely satisfied, whether we've exceeded their expectations, to see how they're doing, because then there's a brilliant opportunity to either fix something that might not be quite to their expectations, or indeed solicit an introduction. So that follow-up was really key. And what I wanted to do is to essentially, understanding those figures, we need to think if only 29% of people who actually get a good positive experience will refer us, what can we do to bring a group of people around us that could really get to know us, that we could generate some trust, and then move forward to proactively seek referrals. Now, although this is not a referral group, it's all about marketing. Referrals or introductions, third-party introductions, recommendations are a part of the marketing mix, as we discussed last week. So what I thought we would do is I'm going to cover something that I've been using for a long time. In fact, I created this particular template, and I was using it with the BNI group that I was with over in Wincanton. And I found that if you look at it, and it might be that you won't have all the ready answers today, but I'm more than happy to send you the document. Most of the business at a networking event is actually done after the networking event. That's why it's always good if you're going to a networking event to actually stay behind and seek out and meet people and really get involved in a one-to-one. And I know that 4N do those meetings in the meeting itself, and I think that's quite a good idea. But whatever you do, even people that you've met for the first time and that you think networking is not necessary for them, if you think this potentially a fit, maybe they're sharing the same market sector and you'd like to develop that further, following up with them is a really good idea over a coffee. And these are the questions that I normally would ask somebody. And you'll notice that I'm actually I usually let the other person talk first because really it's not about me. It's about me understanding them. And I think when people see that you're giving in that way, that you're genuinely interested, most people have a resonance, and they'll feel that they want to help you at the same time. You can use this in a structured fashion. In other words, you can go through this while you asking questions and then hand it back to them and say, well, now you ask me questions. So the first question I inevitably ask, and I do it in a natural fashion, is what plans do you have for the next 12 months? How do you see the next 12 months panning out? How's the pandemic affected you? And what do you see now that lockdown's over and we're facing potentially the end of the furlough? That question is very, very key. You can ask it to almost anybody because first of all, it shows understanding. But secondly, it helps you understand where the other person is. It often reveals, especially if you're looking at them, which you would be doing, any anxiety that they're expressing, not just what they're saying. There may be some anxiety underneath, a bit of fear, and that fear might be born out of, can I cope? Am I going to be able to handle it? Do I have what it takes to get through? And the reason why I look for that is I might be able to help them. I might be able to help them personally, just there and then, out of some encouragement or advice, but I might know somebody else that can help them. And again, so that's that referral recommendation hat on. So what plans do you have for the next 12 months? I'm going to come and ask one or two people here. I don't know whether I'll have the chance to ask everybody, but the second question is born out of genuinely trying to understand what sort of customers are they working with? Because we do tend to lapse into what we do. And the type of clients and customers you work with, I found it's easier to be a bit more specific. Tell me about a client. First of all, tell me what sectors you work in, what types of customers that you work with. And we'll try some of this out in a second. Tell me about a client from each sector, what you did, how you added value, and why they were impressed. In other words, that's another way of saying, tell me a story about the type of clients, the different types of clients you deal with. So I could ask Simon, you could have criminals in one, it could be children in another, and it could be adults with suicidal thoughts in a third. So if you then can tell us some stories, those stories resonate. We're not going to grasp facts. We're certainly not going to grasp any lingo that we use that is common to us but not to everybody else. And I think people that are not in my sphere use lingo, but then I use lingo as well that, quite not surprisingly, people don't fully get. So there, I think that in itself is really, really key. If you were to cover just those two sectors, once you've found out about each other, you know, the personal side, this is getting back down to the nitty-gritty. And then who would be a really great client and why? You want to probe for specifics, because what you're looking for is in all these sectors, and what they're saying is you're looking for something that'll trigger somebody that you know, or maybe anchor something about them that when you suddenly see that scenario, you think of that person. Does that make sense? If you just covered that, you'd be a lot further on than most one-to-ones. I've always found that, certainly in my experience, that if you don't have some sort of structure for your one-to-one, it wanders off into a social chat about football teams or holidays or whatever. And that's fine, but not when you're down to taking your business introductions on purpose. So who'd like to have a go? Who'd like to be quizzed by me about these things?
I'll have a go.
Right, Joe, that's good. Joe, remind us what you do.
So I'm a virtual assistant, part of a franchise called Smart PA.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, I only launched June of last year. So I was I was on track of what I forecasted and planned, which was really good. But obviously I was hit by COVID like everybody. So if we want to talk about my plans for the next 12 months, it's to try and get back to a position I was in previously.
And just before I do that, because I'm naturally going back into the pre meeting, and I shouldn't. I'm misleading somebody. You've been doing this for 12 months. Were you doing anything like this before? Was that your background?
Yes, yes. Early days, I had a background in marketing, several roles in marketing, big corporate companies, colleges, different industries. I then moved over to executive assistant, PA, office management, those kind of higher level support roles as well. So getting things done is where I'm at, and a lot of diverse skill sets and different areas I've worked in. So
and given that so all of a sudden here we've established quite a good executive background. Can you see how that's important before diving into things like this? And you chose to, instead of just starting something on your own, you chose to go with a franchise. Why was that?
I think it's just that assurity, really, insurance that you're not actually going it alone. I felt I needed something like that. I mean, it was a big commitment. Financially, it was quite a big commitment. But I looked at several different franchises, and Smart PA was by far the more professional. And I think one of the biggest reasons for that choice was the backup that they supplied and the business model that they use. There's options in there as a Smart PA partner to do insourcing. So to make up my salary, I can do work for other Smart PAs that are doing more of a model where they are account managers. They get the clients in, they don't actually service the clients, they push it out to Smart PAs who only do the administration. So there's lots of different angles to it. So I felt it was the best option.
Well, having had a franchise, I know, and also trying to do something on my own, it's not quite as easy as people think. And I think that's quite a sensible approach to know that, first of all, you've got that structure around you, which keeps you accountable and focused, but you've also got that support. And I think I've said it before, we do need to surround ourselves with people who will support us in those many ways. Now, so you said that you were on track until the lockdown. What do you mean by that? Is that a type of client, a financial track, or
a financial track? Number of clients.
Number of clients.
So the growth in number of clients.
So this is going to lead me brilliantly into this. So your focus is having a number of clients. Do they all pay the same, or do you? Well, no, the invoicing will be dependent upon what you do. So you'll be dealing in different, maybe market sectors or different types of service.
Well, the way it works is we sell packages. So it's package based on a number of hours. So, I mean, we do one-off projects, but ultimately my goal is to get retainer clients. So I'm receiving a monthly fee.
And what would they look like typically?
What typical clients?
No, a typical retained client.
What you mean as in value?
No, I'm trying to picture, because the value won't tell me anything. The type of client will. So, for instance, is it an entrepreneur working out of home? Is it somebody starting up a business? Is it somebody that is traveling around the world that needs that anchor point? This is where I'm fishing.
Yeah, I mean, really, it could be any of those, because, as I say, I've got a lot of transferable skills. I don't target specific industries because the experience I've had over my 30 years of working has been across very different industries and sectors and areas, public, private, everything. So that isn't necessarily, it's hard to pinpoint an ideal client. I know me personally who the types of clients I prefer to work with.
Right.
But I think that is just more of a personal preference.
All right. So who are they?
and that's also based on tasks that I enjoy the most.
All right, well, that's fine. So who are they?
Yeah. So they're creatives generally.
So I'm gonna put in section 1. I'm sorry to interrupt, just for everybody else's benefit. And by the way, when I'm doing a one-to-one with somebody, I always make sure I'm taking notes. Because first of all, I need to take notes because I can refer to it back again. But the person knows that it emphasizes the fact that I'm interested. So creative. So the creative trades you like to do because you're creative?
Yes, yeah.
Or because they're very exciting people?
No, just because I'm creative.
Right. Okay.
But then that also leads into the next stage. It depending on the type of work that they require and the support that they want from me, I thrive on producing creative, content writing, putting together ads, putting together newsletters. I prefer the creative side of what I offer.
That's probably because of your marketing background, so I can understand that.
Yeah.
What your biggest client, are they in the creative sector?
Yeah, photography agency.
Photography agency, right.
Yeah.
So I'm putting that back down under number 1, photography. When you say agency, are they an agency providing stock photos, or are they
No, the actual they run an agency that provides photographers for different areas and different events. So the photographers on the books aren't employed; they get paid per shoot.
Okay, I'm going to just stay with this in a moment before I move on to the others, because I just want to probe a little bit more. So what do you do for them?
Basically, my signature in the emails is operations manager.
Right. So you are
because I run the whole thing. Basically, they use a software system called Light Blue, and that takes everything into account from initial inquiry, raising an invoice, all that kind of stuff. There's a whole history, and you can see what actions have been taken, follow-ups, all the reporting, that kind of stuff. So I manage the whole process, really. Well, I do.
So what do they do?
Sorry?
If you're running that entire business,
the owner
I'm looking for the benefits they get, the value that they get.
Well, for starters, she used to employ a full-time person in that role, and obviously I don't do anywhere near full-time. She is the owner of this business as well as a wedding photography business, so she mainly focuses on the wedding photography business. She does several shoots for the agency, but obviously, as you can imagine, things have changed drastically for photographers
yes.
at this time. So,
right.
Sorry, go on.
So really, you've got an entrepreneur that has branched. Not only is supporting her background, but she's running an agency. So anybody that's running a virtual agency of some description has got the challenges of actually running that, and that's where you're able to add the value.
Yeah.
Good.
Because one of my other main skill sets I think I brag about is my organizational skills. I mean, virtual assistants, PAs, they're meant to be organized, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I just love lists, and I just love ticking things off. Even at the weekends, every day I have a list. I have lists on my lists. But I'm a real doer. I like to get things done.
Yeah, I think very often creative people they're creative because their mind is they've got so many things coming into their head at any time. And
that's where my latest client, I think I told everybody last week, the week before, I had a new client. In one Zoom call, I think she shared about 8 different tabs on her screen, was going from one thing to another, flitting from one thing to another. And at the end of the call, I was like, right, so let's focus on this thing first. Tell me exactly what it is you need here. Let's talk about this thing. Because she was going from one thing to another, because she is very much like that. She has all these ideas, but then she doesn't actually get it done. She starts it and doesn't finish things off. So I'm a finisher offer for her.
Actually, on my next slide, there's something here, but I'm going to cover it now. So in terms of what we notice about people, or what we listen for, because these are very good clues as to maybe business for you, is that somebody that seems overwhelmed. They lack that clarity. And it could be just sitting down and in a nice, peaceful place with a pen and paper, they can get that clarity. But if their mind is a continual jumble during the working day, not only are they getting stressed, but they're not being very productive, because their confusion, if you like, the overwhelm is actually stopping them from focusing on what they really ought to be doing. So,
and a lot of the time when I take on new clients, a lot of them are at that stage, and they do actually find it hard to establish what it is I need to be doing. They just know they need help. So that's where I sit down with them. That's basically the onboarding, is to find out where I can have the best impact on their business initially, and then, you know, prioritizing afterwards how I can support them on a regular basis. But you know, a lot of people work in different ways. You have to be quite reactive sometimes with people like that. And I'm quite good at that. I thrive on that as well, really. I like sort of last minute, oh yeah, let's do that. But I also love the organized side of things as well, because I like to organize those people, and because they then feel so much more in control.
So there's people that seem overwhelmed or disorganized. They could be good people. This particular person that you've got recently, what sort of sector were they in?
That's basically a local listing, and she's hoping to franchise eventually. Actually, she's in Chipping Campden at the moment. She's got somebody working for her in Cardiff, and the idea is to spread out to local areas. But it's built on it's a bit like local pages type thing. But she's just got this idea about offering this loyalty card. And again, that was what we talked about yesterday, and it was all over the place, and this, and this, and I had to kind of bring her around into what exactly it is she needs.
So somebody that has great ideas, but is not bringing those ideas to the table, and they're probably not bringing the ideas to the table because either they've got fresh ideas keep coming in, or they're just not sure. They're not quite appreciating what they need to get that idea to market.
Yeah. But then I also find, on the complete flip side of that, I'm also good at working with people who aren't creative at all in the slightest, because they are actually a lot easier to work with, if I'm honest, because their creativity comes from me. Then they say, I want to do this, but I really don't know how I need to do it. Then I can be creative and come up with suggestions on what to do and how to do it.
Got any examples of that you can think of?
Let's think. Previous clients. Yeah, previous client was sorry for the name, people might know her. Yeah, basically she wasn't creative, and she would just basically leave things to me. It would be a case of, we'd sit down, this is my idea, and I would take it away and just make it happen. You know, like a newsletter, for instance. I want to go out to my clients. I don't know what to say. I've got this, and this, and I'd say, right, just give me bullet points. I can research. I can put content together and find images, and then we'll take it from there. And you can edit it, or you know, that sort of thing.
Okay. Rather than, because I'd like to get somebody else to do this with somebody else, what I'm normally doing is I'm probing for the different types you know, when somebody has a business and they'll have one type of customer that they provide one service for, then they have another type of customer that's often a bit more enjoyable, a bit more profitable, and they provide those sort of services. And then there may be something a bit more personalized with an individual. And what I've got from this already is that largely around people that are creative, people that have got creative businesses, that have maybe got that they've got an agency type business, or maybe people that are running teams. You find, have you got, you know, is that an area that you've found?
Not when I was in the corporate world, yes, because I would basically be the gatekeeper between the CEO, the marketing director or whatever, and their team, and I would basically to manage that team and their requirements, but not so much so since going alone. It's smaller companies who a lot of time one-man bands. I mean, if you wanted to stick another area in there, it would probably be lead generation, which I dislike the most, but I seem to be quite good at it.
And when you say lead generation, what do you mean by that? Is that telemarketing?
Cold calling, yeah, cold calling, and following up. And because I'm persistent, I do follow up. I'm polite. I don't know, knowledgeable on the product, but I do seem to be quite good at it.
So that's an interesting one, because we've talked about that before, the importance of follow-up, of staying in touch, either after clients that have had a service, or maybe people you're trying to stay in touch with after a networking event that you're trying to develop a relationship with. Having somebody stay in touch. Most business owners, because they're doing so many plates, find that is something they say, I don't have time to do. That's not an excuse. They could employ somebody like yourself in lead generation. So that's the thing you least like doing. So, you know, creative people, lead generation, you see where that can cover. The more you delve into that, you're just looking, and I'm just looking for clues, not only for people I might know that might need your service, but it's a downside more, we've already found out it's a downside more than admin. It's really providing that essential support network to anybody on their own, and even to small teams growing, rather than employing somebody. And a lot of businesses out there will hesitate about employing. Far better to have somebody off site that they can use as and when. So we've covered to a degree.
It's flexible as well.
Yes, yeah. So we've covered who would be a great client, really creative. And that would be the next particular slide, or the next part of a form that I would suggest people do. What should I listen or watch for that could lead to a good referral for you? So what would somebody say at a party or at over a coffee that would suddenly make me think of Joe? What would I watch for? What was that?
They're not in control. Their lists are getting longer. They don't feel like they're achieving their targets, that sort of stuff.
So they're things that you would listen for. But when you visually saw that somebody was all over the place. And the final thing is if you're taking referrals seriously, introduction seriously, you need to train your team around you, whether that's at a networking event or whatever. Is what should I say about you that would secure a meeting? Because I've always found that in a meeting, somebody says, "Oh, I know somebody that I can introduce you to," or "I know exactly, I've got a referral for you." And the first thing I would do after that meeting is grab them to one side and says, "Let's just talk about this. What are you going to say?" Because if they say the wrong thing, you just won't get the introduction. So somebody, I know a good PA. Oh no, I know all about PAs, etc. But so you need to train people on what to say. You know, I know Mark. I know he's a good accountant. He's got a great background. He said, "Oh no, accountants. That I know loads of accountants." But this. So it's knowing how to introduce us to somebody, and that's at that point where you can bring in. It's better just to be able to bring in the stories about how they've helped people. So, is anybody else here would like to ask Joe some questions based around that area? Yes, Rod.
Joe, when you're when you're looking at the businesses you work with, and I know you work with the guy that does the card machines, can't think of his name now, but
Graham.
Pardon? Graham, that's right, yeah. Does he not give you referrals to other people that he works with? Because if he needs you, all I'm thinking is that if Graham needs your services,
Hmm.
then a natural referral for you.
He does. He has done, yeah, in the past.
And that's how I would look at seeking out more business, just by adopting a similar mode and way forward. You know, you're working with Graham. Graham can refer you. Crikey, Joe's brilliant. She does this, that, and the other for me.
Graham was one of the very good ones actually at the face-to-face meetings. That, but unfortunately, he's stopped networking. But yeah,
that's he's traveling around the world, isn't he? But the thing with Graham is that Graham, if he signs up someone on a card machine, he makes a lot of money, so he can really easily afford your services, because it will give him more time to do what he's really good at.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so
Rod's
he did
made
with,
a very...
I worked with Keith, FSB. He referred me to Keith.
Yeah.
And for lead generation.
Well, he's a great one for you because he's introducing new members all the time to the FSB. So
Keith is very...
he'll find people that are struggling with their paperwork, but very good at something else.
Yeah,
Again,
Keith is very good at putting me across. But as you said, I think these people that do seem to refer me to other people, maybe I need to discuss with them how they should be referring me. Yeah, and give them some pointers.
Yeah, you need to be more proactive. You need to be, you know, you're happy with my services. Is there anybody you think could help me? Help you know, the way I help you. You know, just be a bit more proactive. It's hard asking for it, but you've got to ask for it. You've just got to. It's part of your business overall.
But I don't want you to say, is there anybody that you can refer me to? I know it naturally comes out there, and it's no problem to say that. But if you say, is there anybody you can introduce me to? Let me tell you in specifically who I'm thinking about. And that's when you'd go back to these three key sectors. So, for instance, you might say, you enjoy the work I'm doing and you can see the value of these introductions that I'm making for you. I'm particularly looking for people from a creative industry, because being creative, they're all over the place, they need some structure, etc. So if you come across somebody that seems overwhelmed, they just can't handle it, they're saying this or that, then that would be really good. I'm also looking for somebody, if you come across somebody that's looking for more leads and they want to proactively reach out on the telephone, that would be a great referral for me. And also, if there's anybody else that's selling business equipment, i.e. card machines or whatever, to businesses, what sort of, and then you'd explain, you know, you give that other clue. Or if they're with part of a franchise themselves, is any of your other colleagues? Can you see why just putting that mindset together, you're beginning to ask for the right sort of referrals?
Yeah.
So rather than just, you know, you've done a good job, etc. So thanks for that, Rod. Anybody else like to come in on this? Anybody like to do this?
Yeah. Can I say one quick thing while you're still on that point? Rod's point's right, asking for a referral, but people don't find that easy.
Asking.
To actually say, hey, I did that for you. Do you know anybody else I can do that for? It's sometimes sort of viewed as being pushy, and the words you use have to ask what the question you want, but in a way that people feel that they can answer, rather than not interested.
I think you're right, Barry.
Or is that just me being English? I don't know.
No, you've got to use words that are comfortable with that you're comfortable with, and you've got to phrase it in such a way. But we said last week, if you don't ask, you're not likely to get, and if you're comfortable with that, that's fine. I'm not saying you're comfortable with that. If people are comfortable with that, if they can't overcome that fear of asking, so they don't have to ask in my words, they don't have to ask in a automated way, but I've always found that if you begin something with the words, I wonder if you can help me. Most people want to help. I don't know whether just as an aside, I don't know whether have you ever come across any creative people that struggle? I'm working with a creative company at the moment, and when I started to work with them, because they're creative, they're thinking of everything, and their big businesses are beginning to suffer. And I've helped them actually get a lot more business by taking out the tedium of organizing everything, so they can remain creative. In particular, this person's doing a lot more wedding photography because they don't have to worry about all the stuff they don't want to do. Do you ever come across anybody like that? Now, that would be, in one way, getting you into the habit of asking. That's the way I would do it. But you might find, I mean, how do you do it, Barry?
Well, you know me, Rod. Paul, I can talk the hind legs off a donkey. So once I get going, it's just getting into the conversation. But the choice of words is important, I think. Yeah, can you help me? I think is very powerful. And if you ask someone to help you, there's only a few idiots out there that genuinely won't. Most people at least try.
So therefore, can you help me? Can you help me? Could be a good introduction. But even if you didn't actually ask for that, and I mean, I've attended so many meetings where people stand up and they do the 1 minute or 45 seconds, and if they just stood up and told us a story about somebody that they worked with that week, or somebody they wanted to work with and why, they would get a lot more business, even if they didn't have. It's the stories which I was pulling out of this particular sector. I think this I'll send you. I'll put this document together, and I'll put these slides up on the Facebook group, and maybe if somebody, maybe in each of these meetings that we just take somebody at random. Or somebody is prepared, and we'll just probe this. I in my latter days with BNI, no, actually, no, it wasn't with BNI. It was when I was trialing this method of this marketing sector. Is I would get people in 3s or 4s after the main part of the marketing meeting, and get them to sit on tables, and I would have somebody be the questioner. And asking these sort of questions of one person, and everybody else would be taking notes and have the permission to wade in when somebody said something, just as we're doing now. And it was amazing how quickly if you're in front of 3 other people, it's amazing how quickly 3 people learned about your business and what you were looking for. And I think that could be a good thing to introduce here. I've forgotten that. That's what I didn't do it with BNI. There was no structure for that. It was done it when I've done it when I've been doing this before. So anybody, any other points about Joe, about what we've said, or how you ask for introductions?
Yeah. I don't do it. But I think it would be a good idea. And that's kind of having like a third tier to the type of people that you work with. So creating a partnership, or where you have maybe a few people who you work together with them. So it could be somebody that's creative who needs organizing, or that's kind of one of the things that they help their clients with. So so it's like one of the benefits of if it's, so for example, if it was me, if I've got somebody who it's just like, oh, I'm always losing the link and I can't remember when to do this, sir, and that, then I'll go, okay, come and train with me. And then I say, and to help you organize and get yourself sorted, this would be really good. So it's almost like a byproduct or part of working with me is that I will go, okay, I will introduce everybody kind of to you, or part of what I offer is in terms of organization or creativity. So it's like it's an add-on that I offer that you do. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we both you and that person can benefit. So
I think the thing about running any business, if anybody's worked in corporate, they'll know that a large, medium-sized, large-sized company can afford lots of different specialist skills and being able to pull those together. And that's why they tend to be able to scale and do a lot more. And therefore, the CEO is able to have the vision and to do well what they do. When you get to run a business on your own, you've got to be all those people, and half of those things you don't do very well, or you don't want to do. That's why we need to surround ourselves with people that have these particular skills. Now, whether that's in a support group like this, or whether it's paid for, again, business starting out on its own, it's watching money, so it will tend to do as many things as it can itself, and not outsource. But I think it's a matter of deciding what is critical and what needs to be outsourced. We can all see how it fits in. Ewan, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it's just an interesting point from sort of what's been on this call. It's very interesting, the questions that you've posed to Joe. I know a lot more about Joe now than I thought I knew something. I thought I knew what you did, and I thought I knew the services. I've even had a look at your website. But actually, you talking about it, I know a lot more, which is incredibly valuable. And I think with the number of people on this call, there are natural alliances between, you can see the sort of links between certain people, and then there are other links that perhaps are not so clear. But I think, as you suggested, Paul, just doing maybe a short one of those on each of us would be really good, just to understand, because we all give our sort of 2 minutes, but actually it doesn't really cover anything about what you do, and it's just fascinating to learn a little bit more.
The key is always the key to developing referrals on purpose, introductions on purpose, has never been the meeting itself. That is the theatre. Even the 10 minutes, that's more valuable. The real key is meaningful is the one-to-ones. And I found that an hour is a good time. And very often in that hour, you only get to hear about whatever I'm doing them. I only ever get to hear about the other person, and then you do a return visit, home and away, if you like. And by the way, I've even known people that are really clued up will actually have their document already written out because they've prepared it, and it's something that they can then say, well, I tell you what, they'll diligently take notes. I found not everybody is prepared to take notes. Very rarely, even in meetings, if you're taking notes, it's a sure sign that you're being interested. It's something you do at business meetings. So to be able to have a one-to-one, discuss certain things, and then leave that person with it, you just never know where that might lead to. For sure. Anybody else like to add anything to that? And what I would like to do, anybody like to add something to that? Because I'm going to start to wrap up now. Yes, Damien, microphone on. Microphone on. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'm 5 seconds behind everything. It's awful. The thing that comes through about all of this is the word time. All of us are in this area to help save time, to improve the efficiency of every business that we run with, either because we have a specialist area that we can go and help them with and they don't have to learn about it. So I find one of the strongest questions that I have, Paul, is that I discuss the things they don't have the time to do that they wish they had. And they often are the things that they don't like doing. And that's, for me, just my little bit for today.
I'll pick that back up on the recording. I've just made a note there. They're two great questions. I think I'll add that to the list. I'll give you the credit the first time, Damien, then I'll say it's my idea. No, credit where it's due. That's great. One of the things you wish you could be doing, you don't have the time to do. The answer is always in the questions that you ask. The trouble is, in many times we think in these, it's about what we say about ourselves, and it's all the questions. The questions are very powerful because, believe it or not, people don't find enough time to do one-on-ones and proper one-on-ones. The point about that is that the time you invest in that is implanted in that person almost forever, especially with the stories. And we're still trying to find out how Simon helped his criminal friends. What I'd like to do now is to go around, tell me something you've particularly resonated with you on this particular meeting, and either tell me something you'd like to know more about on these meetings, because they're your meetings. You know, I could talk all day about almost anything to do with marketing, but you know, there's certain things I like to talk about, and I might be talking about things I'm addressing in the moment. It's what you would find more useful. So I'm going to go around at the table, and so that we end on time. And I'm going to start with Mark.
It's all great stuff that we're hearing today. It's just like I think Damien said, it's time, and it's the ability to get out there and speak to people.
Okay, Rod.
I think for me, I mean, you know, when you're talking to someone else, you always reflect it back to yourself, and you know, it's having the confidence to ask people for referrals, follow-ups, and for me, it's a process. My process starts with delivery. When I, if you like, literally deliver someone's human remains or ashes, that point is when I ask for the testimonial. And that allows other people that are looking at my service to know how good or bad I am from a customer that's already used me and paid me. And so I realize it's difficult, Joe, to ask for these referrals or to identify those people, but my God, if you don't do it, you know, you'll run aground. You've got to do it. It's sometimes it's uncomfortable almost, but you know, it's worth it. It really is worth it.
One of the expressions I've used a lot is how can I help you get more business? And then if you always lead with that and you take a genuine interest, it becomes a lot easier to be able to say, have you got a few minutes for me to tell you how you can help me with more business? The sort of people I'm looking to work with. Remember, it's about that process of letting people know how they can help you, not so much. You know, the testimonial might be one, but you know, if we interview you in the future, Rod, it could be that that might be the most challenging. Find somebody that's just nearly to the point where they want to be buried. Joe, have you found any of that useful?
Very useful, Paul. Thank you. And just going through that form makes me realise I'm not utilising the one-to-ones that I have, because I do quite a lot of networking. I'm not, because as you say, you end up talking about the weather and what you had for lunch type thing. So I'm definitely going to be structuring my one-to-ones more.
You know what? A lot of that is to do with where you're networking. There's one set of people that think networking is about meeting as many people as possible. That's superficial. It's surface stuff. You're far better to drive your real contacts deeper, so they've got a deeper understanding of you and what you're looking for. That is far better. That's always been, dare I say it, the B&I way, rather than flitting around. And it's a bit like somebody having loads of contacts on LinkedIn. I mean, I've got 1,500 contacts on LinkedIn. I've got nearly 700 on Facebook. Have I got relationships with all those people? No. Not deep enough for them to be able to help me, or vice versa. It's far better quality than it is quantity. Elaine?
I really liked your form, actually, and also Damien's comment was really helpful too. So yeah, it's lots to think about. Thank you.
Good. You and Kelly?
No, I'd say I think it's really useful because it's one area that it's completely new to me. So I find all of these sessions when we talk about this thing and how you do have those conversations very useful.
There is a hidden part of that form I've not covered today, which is who are the sort of type of people or the type of businesses that are most likely to already be dealing with the clients we have, and that could be a good thing to prepare, because they could be good people to reach out with and begin relationships with on the moment while there's no physical networking on things like LinkedIn. Simon?
Can't
Yes.
hear.
Well, I do scribblings. So I've been working through the sheet as you were going through it and jotting some points that have been said by yourself and Damien and Rod and Joe. I mean, I tend to think that way. And as you're probably well aware, we've used a similar sheet before in the BNI days. And it is really, really powerful sheet to use. I think going back to the point about how do you ask for business, I think there are two tricks. One is I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry, so I sold lots of stuff. So there's a salesman piece, which I'm not very good at. There's also the piece around using a card that says thank you and having a tagline at the bottom that says, do you know anybody else type of thing as well. And in my industry, and Elaine may agree or may disagree, in the sort of psychotherapy world, we have some restrictions on asking for business.
Yeah, totally.
And on testimonials. So there are other ways of doing it.
Yeah, you'll have to discuss those. Damien, great to see you.
Yeah, you and all of you. It's lovely to see you. Sorry, I've been a bit vacant the last couple of weeks. It was very nice to have landed a number of different clients and projects that have taken me through promoting a webinar for the Champions of Humanity, you know, the Black Lives Matter, and then actually dealing with a company that's building bespoke trailers for heavy goods vehicles. So it was like, oh, but one thing that was totally straight across all of those is that we shouldn't be worried about going back to basics. We should map out our business as a drawing. And if you were to look at the sustainable good practices that successful businesses and people use, they do the same things. One, they have an attract phase, which is an entry point to our business that's simple and everyone understands it. Then there is an education sales phase, which allows people to join on impulse, on time, and covering some of these pain points that you all spoke to. But if you can automate some of this, it means that your follow-up is less stressful and time intensive on you, but it's consistent to every single person that wins. And when you deliver, if you over exceed those expectations, then you have every right to ask them if there's anybody else that has similar problems to them that they would happily introduce us to. And that for me is just like the basic strand. And if we all took a big piece of white paper and just mapped out one strand, where's our entry point? Where is our educational touch point? And where is the opportunity to upsell and then thank and over deliver? Then you're going to have a really good sort of step by step, almost like Lego put together. And for me, all the little bits that you all spoke about cover some parts of those basics, but it's about stringing basic one to final, you know, the 18th hole. That for me is what I hear.
I think given what Joe's been talking about and given about time, I think the idea of for most businesses, actually, when you've got that blank sheet of paper, thinking about what in my business can be automated, but what is the system we've got? Maybe if everybody else is happy, maybe at some point we have Damien just go through how he takes a piece of paper and he moves that into an automated system. I think that could be quite valuable. Barry, great to see you again.
Yeah, I think the thing that sticks out for me from this morning is preparing the right questions to say. It's to have a process, to quote Damien, that doesn't require a great deal of thought when you're out there on the hoof.
So it becomes a way. It becomes a natural way.
Second nature type thing, you know.
Yeah.
I always ask this question because that's the response I want. So yeah, I think phrasing questions in advance and you know, practicing them, I guess, and off we go. Yeah, but no, it was, and I agree with other people. I think quizzing Joe like you did today, and quiz the rest of us. Don't just pick on Joe. I think that could be useful.
No, she's got the real value today.
I'm teasing you, Paul. I'm teasing you.
I know. So Issa, you're on mute. If you'd like, just give us what you got from this and.
Yes, thank you very much. Things that I got were The key is in the questions, also the time. Comment that Damien mentioned was really useful, and then I think for me it's also kind of taking action. So I think knowing LinkedIn with the time, what time and resources you have. I find the meetings really useful in terms of knowing where I am, you know, what is it that I need to do, how can I kind of bring things together and be more effective, streamlined, structured, etc. But then like you mentioned, with all of us, when it's just us trying to do everything, it's then, okay, right, where does, you know, allocating your focus of your time. I
think clarity is absolutely important. I don't just want to turn this into a referral meeting. It's quite important that we cover other marketing issues. That was the whole purpose, and the difference that we have here is what element of marketing is you may be struggling with, because we've realized we've got a few more experts in here rather than Damien, Kelly and Ewan. We've also got Joe with that background. So that's something I learned today, which is good. Thank you very much to everybody. I've really enjoyed again the day. You believe me, if your day starts off in the right way, it makes my day as well. And I always look forward to Tuesday. So thanks again to everybody. All the best.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Good. Bye.
Bye.